So here we are at Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi, Yerushalyim HaKodesh, our second shir for the day. Mishna Berura.
It's a tough test, right?
Yeah, but I'm taking half an hour. Oh, so busy.
Yes. We're learning Mr. Hilchos Yom Tov. Shavuos is coming up, and today is the 40th day of the Omer, so that means in 10 days we'll be Bez Hashem Tein Chaim celebrating Shavuos. So Tov Kuf Tov Tes Siv Beis. We did this Machaber yesterday. I'm going to review it now and then see the Bir Allah explain something. I have a basic question on the Machaber here. Yaakov, would you like to read for us? Everyone have the place? Tov Kuf Tov Tes Siv Beis. Page 305, if I'm not mistaken. At least, well, in this edition, 305. We're facing page 304.
Chayav Adam?
Yes.
Chayav Adam להיות שמח וטוב לב במועד. On a holiday, a man is required to be rejoiceful and of good cheer.
Yep, very good.
הוא ואשתו ובניו וכל נשמים אליו. Himself and his wife and his children and all of his borrowers, people joined him. People joined him.
From Lavoy, those who accompany him.
Ketzad Misamchan, how do they rejoice? Hakitanim noten lehem kaliyot. For children, they're given puffed kernels of grain, egozim and nuts. And Nashim kaneh lehem bagadim tachshitin pi mamono. And women, he gives to them clothing and jewelry according to his means. V'chayav la'achil lager layatom v'la'amana im she'ar aniyim. And it's also required to feed a convert and an orphan and a widow with the other poor people.
Very good. Okay. So, just to review, the person is supposed to be joyful and of good cheer on the Moed, on the holiday. Who he himself, Ishto, his wife, Ubanav, and his children, Mikol and the Olim, and all those who accompany him, part of his household, right? Ketzah, so how making Ketan? How do you make children happy? As we said yesterday, don't send floyers, so he goes and gives them good nasharai, things that they like. And in those days, it was kloyos, puffed wheat, toasted wheats, and nuts. Nashim, konelehem, begadim, betakshitim. They obviously have to buy them the clothes and the jewelry before Yom Tov. You can't do that on Yom Tov, right? Kifim amonim, according to how much he can afford. Right? So he's not obligated to go into debt for it, but according to how much he can afford, right? And lahayev ahachil beger liyosum lamana imshar and he's obligated to feed and make sure that the ger and the orphans, converts, the orphans, the widows, along with everyone else who's needy, he should be concerned to have them join him and have them rejoice on Yom Tov as well. Okay, take a look here. There's a bir halacha. Kate says Masamchi Mesakatani. How do you have the children rejoice? Right? Bir halacha. That's in the small print. Yeah, small print here. Right take this one. Right over here. Kate says Masamchi Mesakatani.
Okay, thank you.
We all have the place?
Which parallel?
We're lucky. Dibra Maskil, Kate son.
Okay.
I lost it.
Right
Okay.
there. Yeah. How do you make, again, the Dibra Maskil was the top, the heading of the Mechaber, which the HaKodesh is going to concentrate on now. Right? So the Mechaber, there's a basic question here that we should have on the Mechaber as follows. Beis Yosef, or Yosef Karari, when he wrote the Shulchan Aruch, he said, like, how is a person supposed to make the children happy? So he gives them the koyas and he gives them the toasted wheats and the nuts. Women, you buy for them the clothes and the jewelry, right? So he left out conspicuously, very conspicuously, the person himself. How's a person supposed to himself make it down there? Oh, so Mishna Berura.
I had in the back of my mind, but looking forward.
Okay.
I guess he's not supposed to worry about himself, you know.
All right. So the answer, the question really, and the answer is in the Bir Halacha. Take a look. Go ahead, Yaakov. You want to read that for us?
כיצד משמחן הקטנים אפילו והנשים כולה. האנשים בזמן שבית המקדש היה קיים, היו אוכלים בשר השלמים בשמחה. In the days the Beit Mikdash was standing, they would eat meat, and shlamim is a kind of a sacrifice.
Well, the basar shlamim, they would eat the basar, the meat of the shlamim, which is a sacrifice. See, so this is the Mishna Berura is starting off by giving us the background that men, at the time of the Beis HaMikdash, they would be eating the meat from the carbon, the offering of the, which was referred to as a shlamim, and that would give them the simcha. That would give them the simcha, the rejoicing and the happiness that they were required to have on the Yom Tov. Now, shlamim are called shlamim because Chazal explained korban shlamim is called the korban shlamim because it makes everybody happy, because everyone gets a chelik in it. Meaning, there's a chelik, a portion of the korban which goes to the mizbeach, right, to Shemayim, which is burned completely. There's a portion which goes to the kohanim, right, and there's a portion that goes to the owner of the korban. So everyone gets a portion, so that's why it's called a shlamim. It's making everybody happy, right? Making shalom, being everybody, because everyone gets a portion of that korban. Other korbanos, it's not necessarily so. An oila is completely burnt on the mizbeach. Even the kohanim don't get any benefit except from the oros, the skins of the korban, but they don't. Takas, the korban is burnt partly. The kohanim get a certain portion, but the owners don't get anything. But here, the korban shlamim, everybody gets a portion. So by eating the basar shlamim, meaning by the meat of the offering from the korban shlamim, that's what the men at the time of the Beis HaMikdash would get their joy from eating that meat.
Dichtiv, as it is written in the pasuk, V'zavachta shlamim achata sham v'samachta v'gomer, and you shall sacrifice shlamim and you shall eat and you shall rejoice.
Right, you should eat them there, v'samachta, and you rejoice. So that's the pasuk, which the proof is that the joy came from eating the korban of the meat from the korban shlamim. The akshav now, and what about for us now?
עכשיו שאין בית המקדש קיים, אין יוצאים ידי חובת שמחה אלא ביין. We're only, now that's not Beis HaMikdash, we're only yotzei simcha by wine, through wine.
Right. This is an important thing. The person should really, in a real well, to try and fulfill. This is a mitzvah doraisa, right? To drink like a revis of wine on Yom Tov. Whether you have to have it on every suda or not, that's another shaila. Question whether you have to have one at night, one during the day, that's another shaila. But at least, definitely, and whether or not kiddush is concluded in that wine, right? That you're supposed to have for Simchas Yom Tov, whether that's another question, right? But in general speaking, the revis, at least of wine, to have sometime at least once, maybe even twice, on Yom Tov, that's the fulfillment of the samachta, that you should be joyful on the holiday. And how do you know that wine makes people happy?
Another pasuk.
Yep, another pasuk. Shene'amar.
Shene'amar v'yayin yisamach levav enosh. Wine makes the heart of man happy. I always wondered about this pasuk, because it says enosh, and enosh really means mortal man.
True.
And I wonder, and the pasuk after this is, I think it's from Tehillim, if I'm not mistaken. This pasuk,
Yeah.
and the pasuk that is the other words in the pasuk. It's the same formula, something, but it says Adam. And I always wondered if that was meant to be contrasting, like maybe like dying in some way can lead to mortality. You know, it can lead to. I mean.
Well, that's true. That's true. At great length, it's spoken about the detrimental effects of over drinking wine. Wine within a certain measure in the proper way is very, very not only physically beneficial but also spiritually helpful and necessary in certain cases as well. But the point being, Enosh is really talking about the person, humans, at the very basic level, right? So because it's that one understanding of why it's referring to that wine is Sameach Leiv Enosh. Why does wine make the person happy? Because at a very basic level, it works at that very basic interface between the goof and the neshama. It's working directly on the goof. Wine is something which is not working through any spiritual elevating process. It's working to elevate the person in a state of joy through a physical influence. It's physically influencing the person, right? So there are other ways you can get to states of joy, but everybody's affected by wine. So that's why Enosh. That's why I would say Enosh, because that's the basic person. Every basic human is affected and made joyful through wine in ite proper amount. Too much will be bring him to destruction, right? Not enough will not have much of an effect. But wine, being intoxicating, that works on everybody more or less equally, right? So that's why it's Enosh. Whereas when you get to different references to Adam that are more complete in terms of his spiritual components, right? So then Ish, Adam, right? These are things which are connotating the person, the human, also with his spiritual components combined with it. But Enosh, wine doesn't have to be involved with the spiritual components of the person. Wine is making people happy in a basic bodily,
almost
physiological, animalistic physiological process. Right. So that's why I'm using the Enosh. But there are higher ways of getting in, more refined ways and more perhaps praiseworthy ways of getting to joyous states. Right? That Arev Noah, Esther V'Seka, Arev Noah should be pleasing for us. The pleasure we get from Torah, it's obviously something which is a different type of pleasure and different type of joy than the joy that you get from drinking. Therefore, on Yom Tif, which is where one of the main requirements is to be happy, right? Just like on Purim, there's an actual command that we have to be joyous on Purim, right? So you can't just command somebody to be joyous, right? No.
You commanded me to love and fear.
Right? Oh, they asked that question also. Right? They asked that question also. How is it possible to command someone to be love and fear? So one of the basic answers is you have to work at it. True. You're commanded to work on it to achieve it. Right? So, but that could be taking place over a period of time to love and to fear Hashem.
Is the love and the fear, is that a physical thing or is that a spiritual thing?
Well, it's both. It's both. At a basic level, the fear, the Machaber uses the expression when you're supposed to be saying Kriyishma, you're supposed to be trembling, you're supposed to be sweating. Right? I don't know if you've ever been afraid enough to break out into a sweat, but when your person's that fearful, like that's already a physiological animalistic response to danger, right? To danger. So when the Machaber says you have to actually tremble and sweat, so that a person can do that twice a day on a regular basis, you have to really.
So based on that, unless I misunderstood what Yaakov's question was, were you asking if through the wine you can reach spiritual levels? Is that what you were asking?
You can. Wine can help you to reach spiritual levels, right?
It has to.
Right.
Now, if you go overboard, you go overboard.
Right.
Okay, but if you know how to work the dial, then you can go places
Right. Exactly.
that you wouldn't ordinarily go.
Exactly. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Right. So on these days like Yom Tov and say for example Purim, when you have a command to be joyous, so wine in a very basic way is used as a means, a method of reaching that joy across the board, regardless of everybody, whoever, what he happens and he happens to be. Right? So so that's something which will achieve the purpose. Yeah.
So wine makes the heart of man rejoice. Aval basar ein chova le'echol achshav kevan she'ein lanu basar shlamim. We're not required to eat meat today because we have no shlamim. Umikol makom mitzvah yesh gam la'achilat basar. And whenever there's a mitzvah that requires the eating of meat, kevan she'ne'amar bo simcha. It really means simcha. What about like korban pesach? So that would include like korban pesach, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're not required to have meat on pesach. We're not required to have meat on.
No. So there's by Pesach, if we would have the Beis Hamikdash, we would have a special mitzvah of Achilas Korban Pesach, right? That would not be a fulfillment of Simchas Yom Tov, right? For that reason, that the Chagiga comes. The Chagiga is a Shlomim. The Chagiga comes, and you're reading that Korban as fulfillment of your mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tov, and Atami and the Beis Hamikdash, right?
My question is though, if you were to serve a vegetarian Pesach Seder, would that be okay?
No, because it's Yom Tov. Because Pesach is also, even though we don't have a Korban Pesach Bisman is that.
Right.
But since it's also Yom Tiv, right? So it's again, as look at what the Mishna Berura says. In the Bir Lochi, he says as follows. He says, Aksha, right? Avo Basar, ein choyver lo'ochol Aksha. You're not obligated to eat Basar Bisman is that,
Okay.
right? Because we don't have Shlomim, right? Even she'ein lanu basar shlami, mikol makom mitzvah yesh gam bechilas basar. Nevertheless, when you eat meat on Yom Tov, there is a mitzvah, right? Because it says there, samachta, yisur samachta. So, if you're going to have on Yom Tov a meal without meat, okay, and your meal without meat, you're not doing anything wrong because you're not obligated. Would you be obligated to have meat and you don't eat meat, right? Then you'd be doing something wrong. You'd be a bittul aseh, you'd be about a positive commandment to be happy through the medium of meat. But now that we don't have Basar Shlamim, we don't have the obligation. Nevertheless, right, eating meat on Yom Tov is a fulfillment of a mitzvah, of being happy. That you do rejoice, you are happy when you're eating meat, right? So to have meat on Yom Tov is a mitzvah. It's not an obligation, right? Wine, however, wine is an obligation. You must have wine on Yom Tov, but it's and also therefore it's also a mitzvah.
So when it says Ela Bayayin, I thought that meant that only wine gives us simcha.
Right.
So that means that meat would not yield simcha, and therefore would not.
So when it says here El meaning Va'akshav she'ein Beis Hamikdash kaim, and now that we don't have the Beis Hamikdash and we don't have any korbanos, ein yotzim chavidei chavos simcha El b'yayin. You don't fulfill your chayiv of simcha except with wine.
Only wine.
Only wine. So this raises the whole question. Let's say a guy doesn't like wine, right? Let's say a guy doesn't like wine. Well, let's say a guy likes something better. He likes potato chips, right? Right. So again, there's no obligation to have potato chips, right? Right. But if it's something which makes you happy, right? It could be not like basar where it says smach, simcha, says simcha by basar, but since it does make you happy, it could be, right, that by eating potato chips on Yom Tov, right, you're also making yourself, you're having like things which are enjoyable for yourself. right? So it might be a mitzvah. I'm not sure if it's the same mitzvah as eating meat. It's certainly not the same mitzvah as having wine, right? We'll have to see what the poskim talk about. A person, let's say, doesn't like wine, right? Doesn't like wine, so he doesn't like it. Right? So what you should try and do is try and find some wine that you do like. You know, find something that's called wine that you happen to like, right? And enjoy it. You know, try and enjoy it. Like Coca-Cola, right?
One time I was at a vegetarian seder, and there was eggs but no meat on the table.
Okay.
And I didn't feel like I was simcha.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. You should realize that you know, there is an enjoyment of eating meat. Whether chicken is considered meat is another question.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's another question.
I hope so. I really don't eat red meat. So I hope it's
I mean, look, there could, you know, if you search and try and find special dishes or ways of preparing things, you know, you can, you know, enjoy it. Again, you don't have to have that much. But again, if certain meats, if they're prepared well, it's nice. If, you know, as anything, if it's not prepared well, then it's, you know, it's a downer.
Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
So yeah, we learned no joy except meat and wine for men on Simchas Yom Tov.
That's right.
This is jewelry and clothes for women.
That's right.
All right. Sorry, one other question.
Yes.
The Berurah is Chofetz Chaim also?
Yes. Berurah is a complimentary parish explanation in a commentary to the Mishna Berura.
And Shara Tshuva?
Shara Tshuva, no, it's written previously to the Mishna Berura, but the Shara Tzion, the bottom commentary, Shara Tzion, that's also the Chofetz Chaim. Three major commentaries: Mishna Berura, Berurah, and Shara Tzion.
Okay, great. So we're holding up the brackets there.
Yes.
Kain mitbaer midivrei habach.
That's Shin Aleph, Shar Achronim.
Okay. And then,
Shar other Achronim, other Latter-day authorities.
interesting. So, as explained by the Bach and the other phrase. Amen.
Al-Mechaber.
Chaber shalo hizkir basar, and the Shulchan Aruch does not like.
Haskell mentioned.
Mention, right.
In the Mechaber, that in the Shulchan Aruch, he never mentioned anything about Basar. In this sif he did. You know.
Azil l'shitate b'Beit Yosef. However, according to the shita of the Beit Yosef, Azil is according to?
Azil is to go. L'shitasa of the Beit Yosef is going. L'shitasa according. A shita is like an opinion, a certain.
Shita is like a version, right?
Right. Well, shita is like his opinion. Azil l'shitasa. It goes according to his opinion. The Beit Yosef.
Any relation between Azil and Azazel? That's the goat?
Maybe. That's the one you send out. You send it away. Like Azil is like saying going. It's. I'm not sure. It could be a short.
Azil l'shita te. Can I just say shita on this? L'shita?
Shita.
Okay. Azil l'shita Beit Yosef.
Who is the Mechaber? The Mechaber is the Beis Yosef. Beis Yosef is the Yosef Cairo, right? They're all the same. The Beis Yosef wrote a commentary on the Torah. It's called the Beis Yosef, and after that commentary, he further distilled his halakhic opinions to the Shulchan Aruch, which is, and he's referred to as the Mechaber, the author of the Shulchan Aruch.
Ayin Sham. U'le'inyan yain samach al ma שהזכיר בסעיף א' שצריך לקבוע סעודה על היין. So, Ayin Sham, as it appears there?
Yeah, Ayin Sham, and if you want to know why the Mechaber didn't mention anything about Basar, so we're told that's because the Mechaber was going according to his own personal opinion as he had written in the Beis Yosef. If you want to understand why, so take a look at the Beis Yosef over there. Now, that's why Basar wasn't mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch. right? And well, why wasn't wine mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch?
In Inyan Samach, it supports.
Yeah, or he relied on.
Oh, I see. He relied upon the mentioning in Sif Aleph that you require to sort of like establish your meal on wine. Yeah.
Right, we'll see that Mechaber in a moment.
Interesting. So, but I guess that would just be for Yom Tov. Establishing your meal on yain, right? Is that, or is it for every day? Like even just a regular day?
We'll see. We'll turn to the Mechaber in a moment.
Okay.
And yeah, okay, yeah. So to see that, just turn the page back to the beginning. If you look there, what it says there. Yeah. The end of Sifal, if you have where the base is, right, where we just read, go back about 3 or 4 lines. Chayav Libitzoya. You see what it says there in the Shulchan Aruch? Chayav Libitzoya. Chayav to literally to al shtei krikos. You're supposed to break bread on 2 loaves.
We're going back to the beginning of
End of Sif Aleph. Back into the Mechaber. Back into the Mechaber in Sif Aleph. Toward the end, just before the base.
Oh, just for the base, okay. So I don't quite see it. Before the base?
Sif Beis, right?
Oh, okay.
End of Sif Aleph.
Sorry.
I have the soil steak close.
Which little
Test, by the
about the
test.
test,
Right.
okay, that's very helpful. V'chayav livtzoa al shtei, okay, good. V'chayav livtzoa al shtei kikarot, v'litboa calls to the al hayayin. So someone's required to establish his meal, I guess, on two rolls of bread, and litzoa is how is it translated?
To break. You have to break the bread on 2 loaves. You have to-
Okay, and then establish the meal upon wine, upon yain. Read on.
Yes.
Ubigdei Yom Tov iyu yoter tovim mishel Shabbat, and clothing of Yom Tov should be nicer than clothing of Shabbos.
Right, so the Yom Tov clothes should be even nicer than the clothes that you have for Shabbos. Okay?
Below nahagu la'asot bo su'udah.
Slushis.
Shashit. I guess this is on Yom Tov.
Yes.
We don't make a Suda Shashit on Yom Tov.
Right. 2 meals on Yom Tov, 3 on Shabbos, and therefore there's no slushis on Yom Tov.
So why does clothing have to be yoter? If meals are not yoter, why does clothing have to be yoter?
Okay, let's move. Good question. We'll try and see the answer to that Mishna Berura.
Okay.
Take a look in Sivka Teth in the Mishna Berura. Chayav Libitzoya.
What does Libitzoya mean?
To cut, to break.
Chayav Litzoa. B'shtei ha'su'udot she'ochel b'Yom Tov. 2 meals on Yom Tov. The likameh, as it is. I'm not sure what that means.
As will follow.
As will follow. Okay.
Right. So it's chayav so stay. So I mean, you're going to have to. When you have your 2 sudas on Yom Tov, you have to have 2 loaves for each of the 2 sudas, as we'll see later on.
Al shtei kikarot, shegam b'Yom Tov lo haya yored haman kemo b'Shabbat, because in the desert, I guess man did not fall on Yom Tov, just like it did not fall on Shabbos. V'haya yored b'erev Yom Tov kiflaim, it fell double on erev Yom Tov. Al hayayin hainu, that is, I guess we're talking about gam be'emtza su'udah.
Here we are. Here's one of the questions we asked. I mean, you have to establish, you have to have during your meal wine on Yom Tov, right? Hainu gam be'emtza su'udah. Also in the middle of the su'udah, you have to have wine in the middle of the su'udah, right? Milvad, excepting for what?
Milvad ma shekidesh al hayayin mitechila, except for what he made kiddush on at the outset.
Really, even beyond what you mean, you had wine for Kiddush. Don't think that's your mitzvah of, and your obligation to have wine during Yom Tov. That's a Kiddush wine. Now, in the middle of Yesuda, you have to have wine plus.
Wow.
Right.
That's very interesting because sometimes I notice that by people's houses they'll just give you wine at Kiddush time, and oftentimes they won't put out wine for the meal.
Right.
Very interesting.
So on Shabbos it's not necessary, but on Yom Tov you should ask them if they know this Allah.
Very, very interesting. Kamo le'inyan Shabbos. So this means also like Shabbos, no?
Yeah, we'll try and get to that. I'm not have time today, but we'll take that to Reish Nun. The question is, there's a question whether you're supposed to have wine during Suda Shabbos as well, also.
We're going mitzvah le'achol basar. V'kol ze im yado maseget, and all of this is if his hand, if he's able to afford these things.
If you can afford these things,
Yeah.
that's right.
Does that include the 2 loaves?
That again is that's you have to have. I mean,
Can I not buy one? If I can buy one big loaf and make nice slices, and if it's only me, I can.
right? No, it's a mitzvah to have 2. So 2 for Yom Tov you should have.
But can I use 2 slices? I need 2 whole loaves.
Yeah, whole loaves. And when it's
Okay.
usually that's all. Those halachas are really specific to Shabbos, but they apply equally to Yom Tov, and it should be usually shleimim. It should be. So if you have a choice of buying 1 big loaf or 2 smaller, right? You should buy the 2 smaller. So you have because you have to have. That's what we call lechem mishna. You have double portion of bread on each meal. So so for Yom Tov you need at least minimal 2 meals, and you'll need at least. You could get away with 3. You couldn't get away with 3 because you have for the first meal you use 2, then you're left with 2 for the second meal. So you don't have to buy 4. It depends, but if you can eat more,
For Shabbos you do though. For Shabbos Shudas you need 3.
That's right.
So you would need that extra. Okay.
That's right. Okay. So you see also he said here, the Mishna Berura mentioned also a mitzvah, didn't say obligation, mitzvah to eat meat. Mitzvah to eat meat as well.
I'm sorry, Yaakov, I interrupted you.
That's fine. We like questions at time, Nafshi. V'ayin le'el v'siman reish mem. But I have a question on this next bit.
Yeah.
Ve'itza ve'avodat gilulim. What is avodat gilulim? Isn't that avodah zarah?
Yeah. So.
What does that do with what we're talking about?
Okay, so 1 second. So you're reading where? Let me just catch up with you.
Sure.
Let's see. You're reading back in the Mishna Berura?
Yeah, it's just the very next bit. Right, the very next.
1 second. 1 second. Yeah. I see Avodah Zorah. That's the Gemara in Avodah Zorah.
Okay. Itza means in the Gemara.
Isa, it's brought Avodah Zorah. The Gemara in Avodah Zorah, Daf A. Right, there you are.
Got it. I wonder why it calls the Masechet Avodah Gilulim and not Avodah Zarah as it's known commonly. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we read on?
Yeah.
Okay. Shetiknu laharbot b'su'uda b'yom tov harishon shel Pesach u'vatzeret u'v'rosh Hashanah u'v'yom tov ha'achron shel Chag. And so this I think like what we just read was established for Suda Yom Tov, the first day of Pesach, and Shavuos and Rosh Hashanah, and the last day of Sukkot.
Right.
So why not the first day of Sukkot?
Tiknu laharbos b'su'us Yom Tov Rishon shel Pesach v'tzeres u'Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Tov Achron shel Chag. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. A very good point. I'm not sure why it doesn't mention about Sukkot. First day of Sukkot. I don't know. Good point. After 1 second. Look at they're very good. Everyone, if you could see the Sha'ar Tziyun, look at the Sha'ar Tziyun. Again, Yaakov just asked the question. The Mishna Berura just brought the Gemara in Avodah Zarah down why, that it was established that you should harbos, you should have a embellish your sudas of Yom Tov Rishon Shal Pesach, the first day Rishon of the first day of Pesach, and you should embellish the suda, have his go all out, right? Bet Seres, right? That's referring to Shavuos, right? Rosh Hashanah, Yom Tov Achron Shachag, and the last day of Sukkot, right? So look at Shar Tzion, Yud Gimel.
Yud Gimel. Lefi?
Yeah.
Lefi Shehu Yom Geula V'Cherut. Since it is a day of redemption and freedom.
So that's referring, I think, to Pesach. Pesach you should embellish your suda because it's the Yom of Gula V'Cherut. Okay, good, Sarah.
So Lefi Shehu Yom Matan Torah. That's when we were at Sinai receiving Torah.
So that's the reason why we should embellish our sudas on Shavuos.
Of Rosh Hashanah, Lefi Shehu Techila Hashanah Osim Kain L'Siman Tov. So Rosh Hashanah, because it's the beginning of the year, it's a good omen, a good sign. Shemini Atzeret, Lefi Shehu Chashuv V'Hu Regel B'Fnei Atzmo. It is an important day, and it's its own holiday.
Right. So you want to make a special embellishment of the sudas to emphasize the fact that Atzeres, the last day of Sukkot, right, is a Yom Tov B'Fnei Atzmo. It's not considered just the tail end of Sukkot. It's a real Yom Tov in and of itself. Well, here's your question.
Here's the question. About Yom Tov Rishon Shal Sukkot Lo, Lefi Sheha'am Trudim B'Mitzvat Sukkah, because the people maybe were lax.
Well, Turdim is that they're preoccupied.
Trudim, they're preoccupied with building the sukkah. Yes, with Mitzvat Sukkah, V'Daled Minim, and V'Ein Panai. It is not necessary. Panai.
Right. Vein Panai, they're not free.
Not free.
They're free, lahatin harbi, not free, available to prepare a lot. Since they're busy building the sukkahs and getting the daled minim, they're not free, right, to embellish the sukkahs on the first day of sukkah. So therefore, there was no special takana. I mean, you have to have sukkahs Yom Tov, but you don't have to go out and all out as you do with Pesach, Atzeres, Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, and the last day of Sukkot, because you were busy preparing the sukkah and getting the meaning together. So, but you wanted to take people's minds away from the preoccupation with the sukkah and the daled meaning. Therefore, they didn't have to go and make extra special things for the Yom Tov, first day Yom Tov for Sukkot.
Could Trudin also mean like they spent a lot of money on the Armenian and the Sukkah, and so we want to cut down on the expenses?
Yeah, Trudin is usually a physical effort. Physical efforts. Trudin is really it doesn't seem to be that in this case. I don't think so.
What did it say about Shavuos? It said redemption and freedom for Pesach.
Right, redemption and freedom for Pesach. For Shavuos, it's Matan Torah.
Matan Torah, getting
the
the
day of giving of the Torah. So that's a good reason why we should embellish and go as far out as we can to have good meals on Shavuos. Now, just to finish up, I'll just read here briefly what it says in Reish Nun, what the Mishna Berura said about having wine on Shabbos. So the Mechaber says in Reish Nun, in Sif Beis, Yarbe bebaser v'yayim u'migdanim kifi yechalto. On Shabbos, a person should have a extra special amount of wine and of meat and of delicacies, good things to eat. Kifi yechalto, according to his means, as much as he can afford to do it. Mishna Berura says in Sif Katan Vav, okay, he refers back over to another ring, but that's that. So a riboy of wine, I'm not sure if this is a raya that you have to have wine during the Suda, like we said, you have to have wine during the Suda of Yom Tov, and then can't consider the wine of Kiddush to be your wine for Simchas Yom Tov. I'm not sure if that's going to be, it was simply, the Mishna seemed to read simply that that's the case, why Shabbos as well. But looking here, I don't see that it's actually what we say mukhrach, self-evident that that's the case. Have to do a little bit more research on that, Be'ezrat Hashem, for next week. Hopefully, we'll be better. Okay, we should have a good day and a good Shabbos.